As we think about Hebrew, we have posted several videos on looking at an imperfect and looking at the 7 stems. Today we want to look at what we call the no prefix, no suffix chart, where you look at the stem by the vowel patterns to try to understand what we're looking at. The first one is shamar, and we're using the verb shamar to keep. It's the same verb that Weingreen uses for the perfect. And notice the vowel pattern for the perfect, cow perfect, is an A vowel pattern, a long A commas, followed by a short A apatha. And that's the cow perfect, he has kept. And that's the vowel pattern for the cow perfect without any suffixes or prefixes. If we're looking at a participle, a cow active participle, which we would translate as keeping, we have the participle shomer. And if you'll notice, in that participle, you have a cholam followed by a tsere, a long O vowel, a cholam, shomer, followed by a tsere. So we have an O-E, long E vowel pattern for the cow active participle, and we would translate that he is keeping. Next, we look at the cow passive participle, and notice as we look at it, the vowel pattern has an A, a long A commas, followed by a shuri. And so we would pronounce it as shamur, and that's a cow passive participle, he was kept. Notice the A-U vowel pattern, long A, and then the shuri defines or shows a cow passive participial construction. If we go to the cow imperative, we have shamor. Notice it has a shava followed by a long holam. And that would be translated keep. That's the second person masculine singular, shamor. And so that vowel pattern will be a shava followed by a long cholam, a long O vowel. Now, if we come to the infinitive construct, it's the same form, shamor, except we add the lamed, which would be to keep. And so it's the cow infinitive construct with the lamed, the hirik, followed by the shaba in a closed lishmor, a closed syllable, and then the long O vowel, the long holam, in the last syllable. So lishmor is the cow infinitive construct, meaning it stands with the lamed here, to keep. And then we have what is called a cow infinitive absolute. And basically, the vowel pointing for that is the long A followed by the long holam vav, shamor. And notice we have the AO with the long A in the commas and the holam vav in the final syllable, the final vowel, shamor. And when we look at an infinitive construct, grammatically, if it comes before, let's say you wanted to say, he has indeed kept, it would be shamor shamar. In other words, if the infinitive absolute comes before the verb, we would translate it indeed, or he has indeed kept. However, if it appears after the verb, it means basically you would say he will keep continually. So if you were doing that, it would be shamor yishmor, he indeed kept. But then if you had it in continuance, it would be shamar, shamar, and shamor. So you'd have your cow perfect in shamar, and shamor is your cow infinitive absolute. He has kept continually. So if it's before the verb, like shamor, shamar, it would be he has indeed kept. And if the infinitive absolute comes after the verb, like shamar, it would be he has kept indeed. The same would be true with the imperfect. Yishmor, he will keep. If you put the cow infinitive construct before it, shamor yishmor would be he will indeed keep, or he will surely keep. If you put it after the cow imperfect, yishmor, shamor, it would be he will keep continually. So the infinitive construct expresses emphasis when it immediately precedes the finite verb, and duration when it immediately follows it. And so this is called the infinitive absolute. One of the things that I always used to tell students is shamor, shamor, which should be two imperatives. And I was corrected one time and told you should say shamor, shamor. That is, keep on, keeping on, continually, with the infinitive absolute followed by the imperative shamor. Then, as we look at the infinitive construct, notice it appears with the preposition lamed, expressing the English infinitive to keep, which would be lishmor. Sometimes the construct, infinitive construct, occur with a pronominal suffix, like, for example, shim ri, my keeping. But when you're just trying to get the infinitive construct down, I think it's well to look at that inseparable lamed preposition added to shamor. And that would simply be the basic English infinitive in translation, to keep. We then move on to another stem that does not have a prefix or a suffix, and that is the PL stem. And if you'll notice, we're using the verb diber, which means he spoke. Notice the vowel pattern is a hirik, followed by a tsere, a long E vowel, diber. And you also have a doubling of the bait. The PL stem doubles that middle consonant or that middle radical. So diber, and PL looks at intensity. So he spoke. And I guess when we think of speaking, it is sort of an intensity about it. So it appears in the PL stem in Hebrew. Then we have the PL imperative, which is daber. When we did the imperfect, we had yedaber, and if you knock off the prefix, let's say the yod, which was the third person prefix that we used, you end up with the PL imperative, simply meaning to speak or speak. Notice it has an A vowel, a pathak, followed by the doubling of the middle radical and a sere. And that means simply speak. And then we have the PL infinitive construct. And here we have le da ber. Notice we have the lamed with the shava, followed by the A long E, long seri vowel pattern. Again, the doubling of the middle radical in the bait. Le da ber, which would be the PL infinitive, to speak. Then we have the pual stem, and I've used the verb pagad, to visit. Here we have pugad. Remember the pual is the intensive passive that goes along with the PL. And so here we have a kibbutz, a short U vowel, followed by the doubling of the middle radical in the kof, and then a short A, a final patha. Pu God would be he was visited. Or you can also have the imperative and infinitive with that same construction. At this point, the context would determine what we are looking at. Are we looking at an imperative? Are we looking at an infinitive like lepu God or pu God, that is visit? Or are we looking at a pual perfect, third masculine singular? And all three of those have the kibbutz followed by the pathak and doubling of the middle radical or middle consonant. So the infinitives, here is how Weingreen, I've used Weingreen's grammar in much of my teaching. And when we look at how Weingreen uses the infinitives, notice there are two infinitives in Hebrew. The infinitive absolute, shamor, and we looked at that above, which means indeed, and he has kept indeed if it's before the verb, or he has continually kept if it's after the verb, like shamar, shamor, he has continually kept. The infinitive construct means it stands with a lamed or with a pronominal suffix, and shamor is the pointing of the infinitive construct with the shava and the holam. So you have those two types of infinitives. And notice in the illustration, shamor, shamar would be he has indeed kept, as we saw early on, and shamar, shamor, he has continually kept. And then we looked at the imperfect above. Shamor, yishmor, he will indeed keep. Notice the infinitive absolute goes before the cow imperfect here of yishmor. And yishmor, shamor, here we have the cow imperfect, third masculine singular, followed by the infinitive absolute, shamor, and now we would translate that with continuity or duration. He will keep continually because the infinitive absolute follows the verb. And so basically, as we move on down, thinking at further information, using the infinitive absolute with the imperative, we talked about that. Shamor, shamor. And again, like that would be one of my favorite sayings is keep on keeping on. And I would encourage people studying Hebrew, don't give up. Just keep on pressing on every day, looking and trying to advance in Hebrew. Again, we had pointed out that the infinitive construct appears with the preposition lishmor if we're using the simple infinitive to keep. So those are some of the basic vowel patterns that we look at when we're looking at a no prefix, no suffix vowel pattern. And as you're translating the Hebrew Bible, look at the vowel patterns, and that will be a big, big help in understanding whether you're looking at a cow perfect, a participle, a passive participle, imperative, etc. So we wanted to share these vowel patterns of the stems that did not have a prefix or a suffix.